What's up, guys? My name's Ross Moorhead. I'm the owner of Classy House Productions. Today we're going to go ahead and start the installation process of airlift performance, 3P management, and air ride struts.
I don't know what air ride struts are called.
Anyways, it's going to go on this 2013 Dodge Charger, so stay tuned. I'm going to take you step by step how to pull the stock suspension and then install the airlift suspension and then management as well, and to do it cleanly. There's a lot of installation videos out there on YouTube. They're just kind of thrown in there, and I didn't really like what was going on, so I'm going to do a step-by-step process on all the different chassis that come through the shop, so that there's a better documentation and video documentation on YouTube for you guys to be able to use to install these kits at home by yourselves. So stay tuned. Okay, just wanted to take you guys through what comes with your airlift kit for your particular chassis. For the Dodge, you've got these front air struts here, bag and the strut integrated together. It's a full shock body, full adjustable shock body. You've got your rear bags, the rear bag brackets here and here, all the mounting hardware you need for your brackets, and of course the roll plates. You've got your leader lines. You're going to go to the front air struts. Really high quality stuff. Everything's really nice, powder coated. The red anodize really sets off the suspension. And of course you've got your air tank, so this is going to be your supply for the airbags. If you're kind of new to air ride, this is what the compressors will pump the air into for your reserve. Then quickly moving along, of course you've got your dual black compressors. This particular client, he decided to go with the two, which I always recommend. You never know, one might go out or freeze up on you, so it's always good to have a backup compressor. I like to have two also. Basically cuts down on the, well, it adds to the longevity of life for the compressor, since basically they're working half as much. And then you've got your the heart of the 3P, which is going to be your manifold, and it's also going to have your wiring connections, the controller, and then the controller wire for it in here. It also comes with zip ties, butt connectors, bolts. It's really an all-inclusive kit. You've got your main harness here for the 3P management. You've got all of the different parts, air filters for the compressors, which we'll put those together. You got your second compressor harness from Airlifts as well, and it comes with its own wiring kit. And then of course you've got your 1/4-inch air line, water trap, drain hose, and then of course each kit will come with a detailed manual on how to take out your stock suspension, kind of like what we're doing in this video. So really an all-inclusive kit, really nice stuff. So let's get to it and get this thing down on the ground. Okay, so now we're to the fun part where we get to actually take the stock strut out and put in the good stuff, the airlift suspension. So down here, it's basically just 3 main bolts that we're going to take out. It's going to be the retaining nut for the upper control arm. It's going to be the sway bar in-link nut. And then there's a bolt on the bottom of the strut that's holding it to the lower control arm assembly. So we're going to take those 3 down, and then we'll work on getting it out. So the first one is going to be this sway bar in-link here. So I'm just going to go in with my handy dandy crescent wrench. All the guys at the shop make fun of me for using this thing, but sometimes it comes in handy when you can't find that elusive 21, apparently tonight. Then I've got a 10mm socket on this side, and we're just going to turn it. Oh, there goes my crescent wrench. There we go. There we go. And there goes the light. Okay. We just finished turning this. You guys know what a nut and a bolt looks like coming out, hopefully. Let's turn this off. Anyways, you've got your sway bar and link here. Pull it right out. We'll just put that back kind of out of the way for a second. Alrighty, we're just going to go ahead and take this bottom shock bolt out of the lower control arm. Just got one more to go. Okay, so we're back up top to the upper control arm nut here. I've got my open-ended socket wrench here. It's an 18, and I've got an Allen on my ratchet here. So this is going to go into there, and then this would go on the nut. Obviously it's going to be reversed, so let's get this off of here. It's kind of awkward doing it at angles for the camera to see, so bear with me. That's not too bad. Okay, now we're up in the engine bay. As you can see, this is going to be the top of the strut tower. So we're just going to remove this cap. Just pulls right up. Sits right on top of the upper strut nuts. And then just three 13mm nuts here. Take those off. This last one, I just like to loosen it just a little bit. Since I'm by myself, what I can do is reach underneath the fender, grab the strut, and then I can hand unspin this. That way it kind of helps me hold it while I'm getting positioned to hold the strut. So now that we've got the strut assembly out, it's time to go ahead and throw in the airlift strut. Sorry about the compressor being on, but just one of those things when you first started doing videos, you don't think about turning off the compressor. But not too bad of a uninstall, so let's go ahead and throw the strut in. So we're just going to go in the exact reversal order. Let's put the strut up in here, and then we'll tighten the nuts up top. So we're back up top. Went ahead and started one of the nuts while I was down there holding the strut up, so it makes it easier for us to put the other two in. Hand tighten them for just a second. Get a little snug, because once we get it back down on the ground and get some weight on the car, we'll retighten these to make sure they're good to go. Go ahead and tighten this back up. Nice good grunt for the final touch. Now, something I kind of failed to mention earlier, that the new airlift struts, they do come with their own new lower bolt and nut. So just go ahead and use theirs, and then I just put the factory bolt back into the factory strut. So we're going to get this tightened down, and then we'll be ready to button it up. And again, I failed to mention, sorry guys, it's my first video, but the lower bolt and nut are both 22s. So just so you have that info, save you a little bit of hunting time. And a 1, and a 2, and a 3. Come on. I feel like I can tell a long story by the time I get this thing tightened down. Little grunt, and we're good to go. And put the nut on, and tighten a little bit first. Then we're back with my handy dandy crescent wrench here. Yeah, these camera angles are kind of awkward trying to tighten this stuff down, but we're gonna make sure it gets good and tight. One, check it. Alrighty. Should be good and tight. Next we'll run our steel braided line, get that nice and secured, make sure that the strut and the strut assembly is able to rotate like it needs to, and then we'll get to the rear. Okay, so now we're moving to the rear. It's just going to be 2 bolts back here. We're going to do the lower shock mount bolt and then the inner control arm bolt. We'll get this out, get this one out, let this down with the pole jack, and then we'll be able to pull the spring right out of there. So the shock mount bolt is going to be an 18 nut and then a 15 millimeter bolt. Just going to zip it out of there. Push right out. If you get lucky. Come on. Come on.
So this next part of the video, I said, Kevin, I need a friend to help. To be like, hey, friend, pull down on this. Kevin's like, yeah, I'll help you in a minute. He's like, I'm gonna tune this car first. I'm like, come on, man, I'm trying to make a video.
It's like I'm not even here.
Pull hard.
Thanks, Sherwin.
Yep.
Still clean.
Okay, so this next part of the installation is kind of tricky. It's kind of a pain in the butt. But basically this is going to go up in the upper spring perch inside the frame. And then this bolt here is supposed to thread up into it. What I've found with these kits is it's easier to do to thread it with the bracket off of the bag. And then once we get the bag and the lower control arm, then lift it up and then screw the bracket to the bag. So I'll kind of show you how I do it. It's very tedious, and you have to have just a little bit of patience. Just don't throw any tools or wrenches while you're doing this, because you will want to. Ninja trick thing to do is take this bracket and then you just clamp right onto that nut once it's up in there. And that way it won't just sit there and spin on you. It doesn't drop down very far. Trying to get a grip on it is kind of a pain. I'm going to take our bracket. See if we can get it started. I think we got it started. So that's good. And then we'll get our 14mm ratcheting wrench. Hopefully we can get this sucker tight. So you'll get it pretty tight, but you're going to want to be able to spin that bracket still, because we're going to have to be able to align it for the bag. So we have to take these out. Let's see. Sometimes once it gets tight enough, you can start kind of pulling down on it. It'll hold that upper bracket for you. Gonna leave it loose just for now while we put the bag on. Okay, so we just go ahead and thread. Throw that into there. And go ahead and spin it around so we can see the other side. Go and use our 14. Get it tightened down. Just try to spin it back around. So we get our other one. Let's thread it in a little bit more. Lettuce, probably not. because we're doing a video. Ratchet in it now. Of course not. There we go. Okay. And then we'll just lift the control arm up and bolt in the 2 lower bolts. And then we'll tighten that top retaining nut for the bracket. And then we'll be done. So this is what the finished product is going to look like. Got the front, and then there's a rear bolt that bolts the bottom bracket down to the control arm. We didn't get the top tightened up. Went ahead and put the control arm assembly back together. Basically, you're just going to reverse order of the 2 bolts that you took out. Pretty simple. But yeah, that's pretty much all the suspension. All right, now for running the Airlines, we're going to run them along the fuel lines. My thought process is if you ever hit anything or debris or something gets up into high enough to destroy the airline, it's gonna destroy the fuel line as well, and you're gonna have worse problems. But it's pretty much the highest point in the bottom of the car. Just run it along with the lines here, zip tie them up, and then we'll put them underneath the belly pan. There's just a few 10mm nuts to bring the belly pan down, and then we can get our line back up underneath it. So I'm gonna do a time lapse of this because it's pretty self-explanatory. Just run against the line, zip tie it, make sure it's nice and secure. So for the driver's side, this side's kind of unique. Pretty cool because you can actually run a good majority of it inside the frame rail, which obviously is going to protect the airline very well. And then you're going to get here to your brake cable, just to attach it here, a couple zip ties. Again, go underneath the belly pan, and then it goes to the back. So pretty cool side. So now that we've got the airline to the back, just ran it up on the gas tank strap. Basically you want to get the airline as high up as possible, obviously away from anything rotating like your axle and exhaust. But basically you just got it up against the body, and then it's got a little natural zip tie right there. I don't know if you can see it. And then it drops down right in the spare tire well where we're going to drill holes for the access. So for the rear, just run it obviously out of the bag and then next to the fender liner. I drilled a hole right here in the fender liner just to give me somewhere to zip tie to hold that line up out of the way. Then once I got back here, there wasn't really anything to zip tie it to, so I went ahead and put a little C-clamp with a self-tapper screw there in the frame, so it'll hold it up out of the way off the exhaust. Then we'll get it back over to our bulkhead. So the rear is pretty short and simple, so pretty easy. So for the front strut, to wrap it up, the leader line is going to plug into your soft line. So what I did was use one of these little rubberized C-clamps, put it around the fitting there. I like to put them here because it makes the fitting nice and secure. You don't have to worry about it jerking back and forth, but plenty of play in the leader line for the wheel to turn back and forth. So it should be good to go. I might put one more up here just to kind of hold it up a little bit more out of the way, but that's kind of the generic way to do it. Okay, so now it's time to go ahead and get the Airlines inside the car. So I've marked my locations right down here where we're going to drill. So I'm going to use my my center punch here to make us some good indentions for the drill bit to land in. That way the holes are nice and straight. Okay, so now that I got the holes drilled, I went ahead and got my bulkheads in and then put on these 90-degree fittings for the 1/4-inch airline. So it looks really professional and clean. It's waterproof because it's got an O-ring between each side of the metal body. So really clean and really keeps the airlines up and out of the way like they should be. So now that I've kind of got a general layout of how I want the compressors and the manifold to sit on our platform here, I'm going to go ahead and mark the holes for the compressors. This is my pen's gonna work. Mark the holes for the compressors and the manifold so we can go ahead and drill our holes so we can get them bolted down after we get it carpeted up. So we've got all of our markings where we're going to have our compressors and our manifold. So I'm going to drill each mark, then we're going to flip it over, and then we're going to use this bit here to recess where the bolts are going to go in through, so that way it's nice and smooth on the bottom. So now that we've countersunk the back of our platform, we're going to go ahead and drill out the proper sizes for each bolt. There's going to be a different size for the compressors as there is for the manifold. A lot of people don't realize how many different bits and tools that it takes to make something as simple as the platform that it sits on, especially even majority of the time it's not even going to be seen. But we want it to be professional and clean looking, so everything should bolt up to it now. So we're going to go and get it carpeted, and then we'll get it in the car. And then as far as running the wiring harnesses, basically just kind of ran them to the side, up and around this rear trunk cover here underneath the plastic, and then down and around to ran the two grounds to the ground battery terminal, and then the positive two wires to the positive terminal. And you've got your fuse holders here, the 30 amp fuse holders for the compressors. And luckily with chargers and a lot of these Dodges, the fuse box is right here, so you can actually get that 12 volt signal right off the fuse box there. Just use one of the add a fuse holders, and it works really well.
And then as far as mounting the tank, just took the factory mat out. It's actually pretty rigid, so I wasn't worried about bolting the tank down to it. So basically just kind of got the tank straight, placed it how I wanted it to, marked the 4 holes in the legs that are pre-drilled for you, drilled 4 holes into the mat, and then tightened the tank down with the supplied 4 bolts. Pretty easy and very clean. And then lastly was running the remote cord. So just going to go underneath the seat. The seat just pulls right up. You're going to pop the plastic trim pieces off along the edge here. Run the cord underneath there through the B-pillar. And then forward here, still along. This just pops up as well. I actually ran it underneath the dash and then came out through the steering wheel column and then mounted the controller right up here on the dash. In closing, thanks for guys for watching. Please like and subscribe. All of the extra parts, they weren't included in the airlift kit, kind of the specialty items that I use. I'll list and link in the description below. So thanks for watching again, and we'll see you next time.